Kiara Sheree.
And I'm Raya.
And welcome to Yas Black Girl.
We back.
So,
Black booty clap.
yes, we back up in here. Oh my God. It's been so long. It's been like a whole month with an F.
Longest month ever.
Yeah, it was. But we were just, getting some stuff together for you guys. Excuse me, I'm sucking on this throat lozenge because, I'm getting over a cold. But it's good to be here and to I don't even know.
I know it's been so long. I'm feeling
It's like I
kind
gotta
of
get back up in here. Right.
yeah. I'm
But you
trying to
look
get back.
good.
Thanks. Trying to get back into
How
the
have
swing of
you
things.
been?
I've been
Yes.
good. I've been just dancing everywhere. I
Mm-hmm.
just did 2 performances. So the first one was in Baltimore.
Mm-hmm.
It was a Baltimore Black Choreographers Festival, and then the second one was
Yes.
at Dance Place. It was called Let 'Em Move You. This is a formation. So we were doing
Mm-hmm.
like J-set movement from the Prancing J-sets from Mississippi, Jackson State
Okay.
University. So yeah, we was doing all this and bucking and
Yes.
stuff. So it was fun.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, just been
That's
living,
beautiful.
working.
I'm here for that.
What about
You know
you?
what's crazy? I've been good. Literally just been working. And doing stuff for YBG, of course. Um, Literally just got over this crazy Halloween weekend, which was so much fun. It's one of my favorite holidays, so I'm gonna miss October until next year.
Yes,
But what's
Lord.
crazy is recently I was listening to the Okay Now Listen podcast, and they recently had a conversation around classic Black films. And when they were talking about the films that they never saw, it was making me think about when your ass had never seen Juice when we were still in college. Have you seen it since then?
We're still yes, and I don't like that. I don't
And you
like
don't
you.
even like the movie. What is
No,
this?
I don't
But
know.
it literally made me think of you immediately.
I thought I
Let
was
me
gonna
see.
like it. I don't. I saw it another time,
Mm-hmm.
maybe a year and a half ago with my coworker. Still didn't like it
It was
because
still
that
a
was his
no for
favorite
you.
movie. Yeah, that was his
Mm.
favorite movie, and he was like, "Oh, you gotta see it. It's real good." And I was like, "No."
No, Juice is definitely one of those movies that you either love or you don't. But all right, we're gonna go ahead and get into our guest. So today we have Tomme, who is a non-binary queer Black writer and educator and learner. They hold a BA in business management from Washington College, as well as an MA from the American University in sociology of research and practice. In June of 2020, they launched I3, which is intersectional, intergenerational, and intentional. I3 works to foster understanding of the experiences of and systems that decenter the LGBTQ community by engaging in the workplace. Tomme also is a coordinator for the Movement of Black Lives and is one out of the 6 hosts for Table Manners podcast. So let's give a warm welcome to Tomme.
Hi y'all. Oh my
How are
goodness.
you?
I'm doing really good. Can't complain. Wow, that's the first time I've ever heard someone introduce me. So thank you for being my first. Like, love
Yes.
it. But yeah, I'm doing good. How are y'all?
I'm good.
Okay.
We live in
Yeah.
life.
Yeah. Same. I'm good. A little tired just from the last month. Yeah. October was
Mm-hmm.
a lot. It
Yeah.
was good, but it's always a busy month. And it was my birthday,
Yeah.
so
Oh,
Okay.
happy belated.
thanks.
So what's your sign?
Libra.
Nice. Okay. And you're a
That's why
Pisces,
she got to
right?
rest. I am.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Cool.
Mm-hmm. At the top of the year. All right.
Mm-hmm.
So we're trying something new today, just to
Okay.
get us all warmed up for the real questions. So we're gonna do a this or that. Right? You want to alternate the this or that
Mhm.
questions?
Yeah.
Okay. So Tommy, New York or DC?
DC.
Hold on. Why?
I mean, I'll get into it a little bit later. Like, I can tell
Okay.
y'all the full story, but like, I love New York for the community, but for my sanity, DC.
I feel that.
That makes
I
sense.
feel that.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So next one, books or TV?
Books. Yeah, I feel like I don't really watch TV. I literally watch Bob's Burger on repeat for white noise in the background. Like, it's wild. So books, but when I have time.
Okay. What
So
you be reading?
So I read a lot of books about like abolition, about just like being Black and stuff like that, being queer, shit like that.
Right.
But yeah, so that's what I've been reading lately. Well, I haven't been reading much lately because I just been working, y'all. And I miss having downtime to read, but vacation is on the horizon. So I'm ordering like a whole bunch of books to take with me.
That's beautiful. Okay, so childhood or adulthood?
Neither. 0 out of 10 would not recommend neither. Okay. Like, right. Like, literally, adulthood is trash. Like, so much responsibility. Like, it's not what you thought it would be when you were a child, where you're like, oh, I could just like eat junk food when I want, and like life is just so grand. Like, no, it's a lot. And childhood was just like, you couldn't do nothing. You had no autonomy. And like, that was trash because I had my own thoughts and opinions, but adults was like, do as I say, not as I do. And I was like, oh, okay.
Don't get me started because I hate that.
Okay.
Definitely.
Whoa,
okay.
I didn't mean to trigger y'all. My bad.
Oh, no. I'm not triggered. I'm just, yeah. Next one, Beyonce or Rihanna? I know this one is always controversial.
I have to say Beyonce, but not because of her music, but because she's a fellow Virgo, and that is the only reason.
Okay, that's a good.
And I don't want no Beyonce stands getting on me. I like Beyonce; she's wonderful. Yeah. Okay, because they be coming for you like that, and like I didn't even say nothing.
You're ready to sting. But that's actually a really, really good reason because it's like y'all are the same. The work ethic, the things that Virgos be doing, the seriousness that goes into they shit. That's y'all. So I feel that. Okay, so tight braids or perm scabs?
Tight braids. Tight braids. I still think I got a perm scab in the back of my head from back in the day. And at least with the braids, like, you put some little aloe vera or something on it, it'll heal up. But them burns,
the scabs, they be in there. Okay,
they ain't going nowhere. You got lump in your hair for life.
That's when you be trying to comb it in the back and you just feel that little. You try to pick it. It's not cute.
Yeah,
I do not.
No.
So next one, summer or fall?
Fall. I hate the heat. It's not. It's not.
It's not giving.
No, it's not.
I love summer.
I love both.
And but fall,
spring and fall, but spring and them allergies.
Yeah,
that's true. The fall has the best photo shoots. Like all the trees change colors. Yes. You really be like, okay, So that's why I like it.
In the fall fashion.
Yes, the layering, like all that. Okay. Right.
That's where it's at.
Yeah, I'm the complete opposite. I like summer because I don't have to wear clothes and the days are longer and it's hot. Like I don't like the humidity, but I prefer the heat. And my body feels better in it because I be sore and that whole thing.
Yeah.
No, summer was definitely made for the Black people, but it is hot as hell.
Hot as hell, and dripping.
I do not like the sweat.
Yeah, that's my thing. Sweat.
The titty foot.
Okay.
That
Just
part.
living a life and here you go. Like,
Right. You happen to have
just
wipes.
constantly
Like, let me
wiping.
go ahead, give it a little wipe real
Okay.
quick, you know.
Like, damn.
A
Okay.
mess.
Thanksgiving food or cookout food?
Thanksgiving food.
Mm.
Thanksgiving food, you know who cooked it. You always know it's going to smack because everybody got their thing that they supposed to bring. Cookout food, I'm thinking about COVID. I'm thinking about germs. Everybody can't make potato salad. Like, it's just too many rooms for error
There you go.
with a
Yeah,
cookout.
I feel that.
And I be
I do
hungry. I
like
like
me a
to
good burger though. But you're right. Thanksgiving is where it's at.
eat.
And the desserts. The desserts be everything on Thanksgiving.
Popping.
Okay.
So BET movies or Hallmark holiday movies?
Okay, both not my type. But if I had to say anything, I would say Hallmark movies because they're so predictable. I mean, so is the BT movies. But like Hallmark, I just like you already know that the person's gonna win. Like their love interest is gonna be good. Everything is gonna just be it's gonna work out. And so I like to think that everything works out. So I'm going with Hallmark.
Last question. Canada Dry or Schweppes?
Oh, Canada Dry, 100%. I'm like I don't even like soda, but it's something about a Canada Dry that like it burns my chest, and I just be like, oh yes,
Like
yes.
the McDonald's Sprite.
No, it don't hit like that. Canada Dry hit, and it's in its own category. Schweppes is weak. That it be flat more often than Canada Dry. So.
Okay, now I will agree with that. If you depending on what store you get it from, it definitely will go flat a lot sooner. But they both be getting the job done for me. If I need something real quick, I'm gonna go ahead and grab me a Schweppes. But Canada Dry be, it be doing this thing. Not you writing, can y'all see me?
That was when I was in the takeaway. I was like, y'all over here talking about
in
food.
Here.
Yes, I want to know if y'all can see me.
All right, so let's get into the real questions.
All right. So, first question, let's get to it. So, if there are any, what mediums do you use to tell your stories about your organization and the people you work with?
Yeah, thank you. Great question. So, first, I just want to say I do a lot. So, I run I3, I'm doing the social media, I'm doing the consulting calls, I'm creating the workshops and everything. Then I have my full-time job, I have a family. So when we talk about telling stories, I always look for the people who are already telling the stories. And so Hope Giselle was a story I just posted about the Dave Chappelle things, and she was talking about her experience as a Black trans woman. And so I shared that on my LinkedIn because those are the stories, and it's not necessarily coming from my mouth, but those are still the stories that are part of my organization and what we stand on. And so I use social media a lot, even though it's not always my favorite. You have to really keep up with it. But yeah, I really focus on the stories that are out there and uplifting and posting those, but also sharing my own experiences as a Black queer person. But I use LinkedIn, Instagram, website. I'm always talking about I3 to people. I use my website to showcase my work and what people are saying about my work. So those are the forms in which I share about my organization and the work that I do with people.
Was there a light bulb moment where you realized that I3 was something that the world needed, or did you always know that the work was necessary?
Yeah. Okay. So for this, I have to tell y'all a long ass story. So I'm gonna try to keep it brief. Okay. As you know, well, Carrie, you know this, that I was living in New York for a bit. And when I was in New York, 0 out of 10, trash, basura, all day, every day. So I moved there. Yeah, I had little sprinkles of good times, but overall, that was a terrible experience for me. I had moved there to be with a partner, and that ended up not being my partner now. And I had a job lined up when I got there. I ended up working there for 3 months. And then in the third month, the person who I was working for was like, oh, can one of y'all forgo your paychecks? And it was like, what are you talking about? Forgo what? We got bills to pay. It's New York. It's not cheap. And so we all had a group call, about 5 employees, her mentor, and her lawyer. And basically after that call, within 30 minutes, she cut us out of the email and she fired us. And then I was like, what the heck? I just got fired today. So I'm like, I don't know how I'm gonna pay my rent. And I had only been living in New York maybe 4 or 5 months at the moment. And so I couldn't collect unemployment or anything like that at the time. And so I just was out of work for 3 months and really depending on my savings. And then I started to work for an organization that does LGBTQ work. Like that was the center. And the job before, I was doing like a bit and pieces of LGBTQ work, but not in the same volume that I was doing now at this new job. And so again, worked there for 3 months. And then 3 months later, I got fired. And I was like, what the is going on? Is it me? Am I the drama? And so I was like so confused and feeling like super defeated. But like being in New York really helped me to like solidify my passion for LGBTQ work. And I also, during that time, I had started a project called Side Effects of Intersectionality because just like ever since college, intersectional, that term, that framework has really stuck with me. And so I was like, okay, I'm going to try to tell these stories about these people who have like these intersecting identities and talk about how like the systems have failed them and let them fall through the cracks because they only silo in their identities. So I had this grand idea, but then I'm like, I can't keep getting fired. I can't fund my idea right now. And then, so like I started to get really like sad and like I couldn't really do much. And so I stayed in New York a little while longer after that, but I ended up leaving and coming back to the DMV. And so when I got back to the DMV, I had nowhere to go. Like my mom lives here, but my mom does in-home healthcare. So she was staying with the people who care for her, who she cared for. My sister got a whole family. She had a room in her place. And so I ended up staying with my sister's dad and so grateful for him. But like, it was like 2 years of just crap.
Yeah.
And so it was like not a light bulb moment, but a light bulb series of like, I can do this work. This is the work that I care about. I need to stop depending on these institutions who see me as disposable when I'm not. I have so much to bring to this world. And so that's when I was like, after coming back to DC, I got my stuff together. I got another job. I moved into another place where I had my own space. And I was like, okay, I was working for this job and I was like, okay, I'm back on my feet. I got some savings down. And then I was like, okay, I'm quitting this job to launch my business. And so that's what I did. Yes. And so it wasn't like this moment. It was like I had been working on this thing because the universe kept telling me this ain't it. And so, yeah, I say all that to say like it was just a whole bunch of crap. And it was like not this one moment. It was a whole bunch of stuff that made me realize like this is something that I need to do not only for the people who I like my community, but also for myself. And so I saw it as an opportunity, like I3 as the opportunity to treat workers how I want them to be treated, take into other organizations how you should treat your non-binary Black queer workers, and like after having all of those experiences, and which really like helped me to launch I3 to what it is today, and hopefully it continues to grow. But yeah, I hope that answered the question.
It definitely did. And I remember that whole time period. I remember when you were starting that other project and you know, you definitely went through a lot of changes and it was definitely a process, but it's beautiful to see you coming out on the other side and starting this. This is great. And I can see the light in you, and you're right. This is what you do. So it's amazing that you are able to do that and step into your purpose in that way. And the universe will shut shit down. They'll be like, yes, that ain't what you're supposed to be doing, girl.
Right? And you keep going. You be like, all right, I hear you, universe, but I'm gonna do what I want to do. And that's why you sitting there looking dumb. And I was sitting there looking dumb. I'm trying to tell y'all, like, it just was obstacle after obstacle, like roadblock after roadblock. And I was like, bro, I know I've done crappy things in this world, but this is all my karma.
I deserve this.
I didn't know my karma was this bad. And so like, yeah, it really I had to really get in alignment and really like listen to my intuition in ways that I haven't before. And that was hard. So definitely leaving a job to launch a business in a pandemic. I was like, girl, what you thinking? But yeah.
Stepping out on faith.
You have to.
Yes. Sorry, I'm just grabbing a little bit of juice.
That was a great answer.
It was nice and full.
But now y'all see why I don't like New York like that. It's just so much trauma there for me. I'm like, oh yeah. I'm having flashbacks every time I step in there.
Flashbacks. I understand. So, what is one challenge when it comes to working intergenerationally with I3?
Yeah, so I think not necessarily with I3, but I think a general thing that comes up when working intergenerationally is people are obsessed with being right. People are obsessed with sharing their one experience and wanting you to accept that as the only truth that exists. And so a lot of times when I'm bringing generations together and having conversation, it's just like oppression Olympics of like, when I was growing up, it was this and I struggled and I did this. And then the other person was like, well, I still struggled and I did this and all this stuff. And it's like, nobody's listening to each other. Everyone is just like talking at each other. And so how can I, as a facilitator of conversations, be like, hey, y'all, we all done struggled. And like, there are certain things in society that have shifted, that have made the struggle easier or harder in some ways. But the common denominator here is that there has been a struggle for LGBTQ liberation, Black LGBTQ liberation. That is the common thread that brings us together. Instead of focusing on the things that separate us and pitting ourselves against each other, how can we come together and build something? So that's what I see as like the biggest thing. But when I think of like the work that I3 does, we bring those stories into the workshops that we do, but we also are working across generations when we go into an institution or organization. And so helping people dispel their judgments that they have based on their generations is also a part of our work, which is not easy. And I'm not in the role of like changing people's minds, but I am in the role of like exposing them to as much information as possible, so that they can make informed decisions. So yeah.
Right. Which is really the best that we all can do. It's like, well, the information is right here. So you either finna take it in and learn something and change your ways, or, just give us the respect.
Instead of thinking your opinion is a fact.
Yes.
Exactly.
Yes.
It's hard trying to reteach these other generations though. They really be sticking to they
I mean, it's hard to teach our generation too. Every generation is stuck in their ways. It's like, this is what it is. These are our things that we had to go through, and this is what we're focusing on. But it's like, if we look across generations, the overall struggle is not different. It's the same struggle. We're still struggling with racism. We're still struggling with homophobia. The struggle itself is not different, but the means in which people want to get over those struggles are different. And so like, instead of people thinking, okay, this way is the right way to do it, why can't we have a conversation and try all these different ways? Because at the end of the day, ain't none of these ways working for real.
Right.
We want to get technical, ain't none of them working. And so
because we still
need
here.
to try. We still here. So we need to try every single thing that we have in our little toolkit, and be okay with it not working out. Yeah, being okay with it not working out the way that we want, and just going back to the drawing board. It's not like ostracizing or talking down to people because their ideas didn't work,
Right. Yeah, 100%. What is the best thing about working with different organizations and guiding them on inclusivity in the workplace?
I think the best thing is when people are like, oh, I really like what you said there. That really stuck with me. Like, that makes me feel good. And just expose, like I was saying before, like exposing people to new information that they never have encountered before, and just helping them get to their, like, helping them on their journey, because I may not be the end all be all of like, okay, this is click for me. I get it, especially when it comes to like talking about gender and sexuality, but excuse me, but like going back to that exposure piece, exposing them to as much things as possible so that later on, when it's a little bit closer to home and their like grandchild or their brother or sister comes out as X, Y, and Z, they'll be like, oh, I remember that training I had with I3, and I'm going to do things a little differently than I would have without that training. And so I think those are the things I hold on to, and people just having like light bulb moments. I love to see it. And also policy change, because that is important.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
So, what inequalities have you experienced as a non-binary person in the workplace? And did any of those experiences inspire you to create
I3? I think, from my perspective, yes, of course. And as I was sharing before, in those different experiences at those different institutions, I think that being non-binary and being Black played a role in me no longer being there. Because I think when people think about queer people or think about Black people, they see us as disposable and like easy to replace, and we're in no ways that. So so that definitely inspired me to be like, what can I do differently? Well, not necessarily what I can do differently, but what can I share with people about how not to treat and tokenize and use non-binary Black folks, disabled folks as a way to reach their own institutional goals, but as a way to actually be inclusive and to be equitable and to like create space in a meaningful and sustainable way that many organizations aren't doing. So yeah, I would say that.
So tell us about your work for the movement of Black Lives and explain how this organization is different from Black Lives Matter.
Yeah, so I will first share how they're similar. So Movement for Black Lives and Black Lives Matter, their work is really centered around Black liberation in all forms of what liberation could look like. When I think of Black Lives Matter is made up of networks or coalitions of organizers and people on the ground. And so you could have a Black Lives Matter DC, you could have a Black Lives Matter New York, but you wouldn't have a Movement for Black Lives DC or New York. So that's like the biggest way that is different. The Movement for Black Lives is also a organization. So, I'm sorry about my dog in the background, but it's also an organization, and we support other organizations similar to Black Lives Matter, and sometimes Black Lives Matter with things such as, for my team specifically, as a communications coordinator for like communication strategies, whether that be digital design, narrative, power building, and things like that. And so I think that's how they are different. And my role specifically, I'm the communications and mass engagement coordinator. So it's really different to be in that role and compared to my role at I3 because at InfoBL, I am like the support person. I'm like the admin person. So I'm making sure like all the ducks are in a row. I'm making sure that we getting people paid and we're getting people the support that they need. So that's like the kind of role that I'm taking in that, where as with I3, I'm that, and I'm like I have to make these decisions that are like strategic and not just rooted in like, I want to get paid, it's like they have to be rooted in like, do these people I'm working with align with what I'm trying to do long term, align with the missions and values of I3. And I'm also doing the admin stuff. So
you got a lot on your plate.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. I does a lot, but it's okay because I always tell myself that I'm not doing this just for myself, and I'm doing this for my community. I'm doing this for my future generation if I decide to, have kids or not. But it's greater than me. And one day, I'm speaking it out loud, manifestation, honey.
Okay.
One day I'm gonna be sitting in my office, my at-home office with my 6 to 7 employees running the business for me, and I'm just sitting back collecting my check. Okay, that is the goal. And so I'm working really hard now because I I see the end, and it's not like a 10, 20 years. It's like a 5 to 8 years where I'm not working this hard, where where things are working for me, and I'm just able to sit back and enjoy the labor that I put in, the intense, radical labor that I put in. So, yeah.
Absolutely. I love that for you. And listen, the manifestation, that shit is real.
It's powerful, y'all. It is powerful.
Write it, and it will come into fruition.
Set it and forget it.
Okay.
That's what works for me. So, what does community mean to you?
I feel like that's such a broad question. But I think, for me, community is about who am I accountable to? Those are some things that come up for me. Like, who am I accountable to? Who am I here to support? Who am I here to love on? Check in on, tell about themselves sometimes. So community is more of like these, when I think of community, I think of like these action things and supports that I can provide. And it's always shifting and changing for me, because going in with like intersectionality, like I'm not just a Black queer person, I'm so much more. And I have sub communities, I have bigger communities that I'm part of. So it's just like community to me is just being able to be authentic in who I am and share that with the people around me. I think would be my general answer. But it's like community, that one word just means so much for so many different people. So yeah.
I like that community as an action. Yeah, that was a word, child. You might need to write that down.
Y'all crack me up.
Write it down. Community is action. Okay.
Period. It's holding people accountable.
No, for sure. No, definitely. And honestly, we need more of that, because it's clearly.
Don't even get me started. I mean, and it's hard to hold people accountable, because that also makes you be introspective. I think that's the word, like, or reflective about the things that you do, because sometimes we be trying to check other people, but you need to check yourself. You're trying to tell somebody else how to do something, but you're sitting there doing the same thing. So it's like, it's a relationship, and you can't hold people accountable who you don't have relationships with, from my perspective. And so when I'm holding you accountable, it's not rooted in like consequence or things like that, or punishment. It's rooted in like, I'm seeing something, it's impacting me this way, and let's have a conversation about it. Like, where is it coming from? But also knowing that sometimes those conversations are not going to go the way that you want them to go, and people are going to do what the hell they want to do. And you making the decision if you want them to be a part of your community. And that's not wishing them wrong or wanting bad things to happen to them, but it's like, in this community, we have a certain set of values and things that we care about. And if you aren't going to be restorative in your practices, then we can't really be in community deeply in the ways that I want us to, because you're going to end up hurting me and not caring,
No, so that's facts. Definitely.
I love how gently you put it, because a lot of people think that accountability is like, you shouldn't do this, and then you like yelling at them and trying to punish them. But it's not that. I'm telling you because I care about you. And I know sometimes my tone can be very direct, so people are not used to that. And I don't have time to lollygag or sugarcoat anything, because why would I do that?
Point.
Yeah,
it's nothing wrong with that. I think people, not to switch topics, but like people are really, I don't know what it is. I don't know if it's our generation or the generation a little bit after us or before us, but people be sensitive, and I get it. You're allowed to be sensitive. But I'm still gonna tell you what needs to be said out loud. Right. And I also have to check myself when I'm being like, I think it's a slippery line of being direct and being just like reckless. And sometimes I know my directness goes to recklessness. And so I be having to be like, I didn't even have to say it like that. I didn't even have to say, my bad.
That's growth. That's growth.
But sometimes I'd be like, you might need it the reckless way as well. So you have to know your people, because all that, hey, I'm noticing, don't work for everybody. It's like, shorty, you wildin'.
People need the bluntness.
Right.
Some people like to be cussed out.
Yeah.
Not me though. Don't curse me out, because I'm gonna want to fight. I'm gonna want to fight.
Okay. No, but that's facts. Okay, so what does queer allyship look like for you in today's social media #driven world?
Yeah, I love this question. And so I think in I3 we talk about allyship. And my goal is to switch to co-conspiratorship, because I think those are two different things. And I'm going to relate it to like robbing a bank. Because that's the image that comes to my mind. So if you robbing a bank, the ally is going to be like, I got you. I'm going to get these supplies for you, but I'm going to stay at home on my couch. Where a co-conspirator is like, okay, I got the supplies for you. I got my mask. I got my weapons. Let's go. What time we going? Yes. They going in with you. They putting themselves at the same risk as you. Where ally is not going to take on all those risks, because they opt in and they opt out. Yeah. And so that is a difference for me. And I think when we talk about allyship in this modern world where we have people use hashtags and they turn their screen black, they're doing what they're supposed to do, because that's allyship. They don't require you to do really much. They don't require you to do much of nothing. But for the people who are co-conspirators and who see themselves as that, they're not. They may do that, but they are doing so much more. They're putting money in. They are showing up. They're using their bodies as protection. Just like a whole plethora of things that they can be doing. Whereas allies are only ever going to do the bare minimum. Yeah. So I think that fits nice. for the people who use hashtags. Yep, you are nothing but an ally, and that's okay. But we want to get you up here
in all shades.
We want to get you up here, okay?
Yes.
I want more co-conspirators than I want allies, because I could change my own screen. I can make my own hashtags, but I need someone who's going to show up for me when things really matter. When I'm like being stopped by a cop and you see something, you gonna pull over your car, you gonna stand there with me to make sure that someone is watching what happens.
Right.
That's what a co-conspirator does. And the ally would never. They'd be like, oh, that's so sad. I hope they okay. And go about their business. Hashtag
blah, blah, blah.
Hashtag Black Lives Matter.
And then be like, oh, I drove past that. Be on the news. I drove past that, but I ain't do nothing. How come you on this platform talking about you drove past it? So yeah, that's what I would say.
Makes my head hurt.
Maybe ally influencers.
Oh my gosh. Kendall Jenner with her Coke can.
That Coke commercial.
It was Pepsi, right?
That activism, that capitalist activism I'm talking about. Yeah, Pepsi, cocaine, whatever.
I don't drink either, so it doesn't even matter.
We don't do soda over here.
Except Canada Dry ginger ale.
Yes.
Canada Dry. Let them know.
Oh, there she go again. All right, so we're just gonna move on to the next question while she comes back. So you identify as a non-binary femme, and what does that mean for you?
Yeah, so I get this question a lot, and I always feel like I don't have a clear answer. But I will say that for me, being non-binary is about like just being who I am. And so that could look like my presentation sometimes is more masculine. That could look like the way that I operate or move is more masculine or more feminine, or neither, or all of the above. But I add the word femme to it because typically when people see me and how I present myself, especially on social media, I'm always wearing femme stuff, makeup, all that. But people who see me in my everyday life, I'm wearing a hat, I'm bald, I'm wearing hoodies, I'm wearing sweatpants, like I'm very comfortable. And someone may people might say that that's more of like a masculine energy, but what I present to most people is very femme. So that's why I say the femme part. But non-binary is just like, for me, it's just being me. And I don't really know how to explain that in a way that people like truly understand. But it works for me. It's what makes me feel most grounded in who I am. And so that's what I use.
I love that.
I get that. Because I don't think I am the definition of like a typical woman. Like I feel like I don't present myself as that way. I mean, like, yes, I am a woman, clearly feminine, but I feel how you feel sometimes.
And plus I have PCOS, polycystic ovary syndrome. And so that like creates more testosterone in your body. And so like I'm hairy and I'm okay with that. I get hair on my chin sometimes, and like the ways in which we perceive gender to be like this very innate thing, but I have a thing that I was given like diagnosed with and have had since I was younger, just like negates that as the truth. So like with all that makes me like lean into my non-binariness even more.
Yeah. And it's crazy because we really do all carry both within us. We all have the masculine and the feminine. Like,
yes.
And I have my own theories about that, you know, when we talking about the ancient world and what people were, you know, looking like. But we all have that shit within us. So it's just like, I get that 100%. Definitely. All right. What are a few great resources that you know of for people who want to have more information surrounding inclusivity and acceptance for queer Black folk and queer POC?
Okay, so I'm gonna shameless plug I3. I love so like in this like fashion of I3 right now, we're really focusing on like workshop series and consulting, but like in the next, year or so, the goal is to really create a resource hub, a space for queer folks in the workplace, and then having separate groups for like queer Black folks in the workplace, those intersection of people's identities, and having like targeted groups there, and how we can come together and support one another with resources, with jobs, with just like professional development trainings. I would also say the movement for Black Lives is really about centering Black folks in general of all identities. And so we have a TGNCI newsletter that I support with, and it has a buttload of information for people to be connected and to get resources that they need. And then honestly, Instagram is I don't know how could we figure it out, but Instagram is really good for community building and for queer folks. And I think that a lot of times queer folks in general, go on Instagram, find a person, and then that's like the gateway to all these other people who like look like them. And people are really open to talking about themselves and engaging with other people. So I really urge people to like DM folks, just talk to folks. If they ignore you, so what? At least you try, at least you put yourself out there. And the next person will respond, so like being consistent and, getting uncomfortable to find the resources that you need. And I will also tell people to look for resources that may not be labeled as like Black, queer specific, because sometimes they don't market to us, but I don't mean that you shouldn't get what you need. And so taking what you need, even if it's not marketed towards you, and that just being that and never having to go back to that, but taking what you need in that moment, I think is so important.
Can you tell us about the Table Manners podcast and how the six of you came together?
Yes. Okay. So first of all, a podcast with six people is a lot. It's a lot with scheduling, a lot of opinions, but I love it. The people on there are super great. So I had a homegirl, she's my homegirl, who was like, hey, this person I know wants to do this podcast, and I think you would be great on it. And I was like, okay, say more. And so when she was telling me about it, I was like, okay, I'll give it a try. And so right now we're prepping for our second season, and it's really just like, it's wild that the six of us vibe, even though we're all Black, but we all have different opinions, identities, experiences that make for a very like more expansive conversation. So we're getting into the intricacies of like how being Black is really not a monolith at all. And yeah, we have a lot of commonalities, but if we break down like one certain thing and really go into depth about it, we can really see our differences, and just talking about those as well. And so that's how that came to be. We finished our season 1, and yeah, now we're working to prep for season 2, and hopefully in 2022 we'll be having new episodes out. But trying to gather 6 people is it's a lot of work.
It's a lot, right? Schedules are crazy,
right?
I'd be like, with us too. So
I'd be struggling with myself. I'd be like, so I'm married, and I'd be like, Nisha, when you want to do something, we need to go out and do date nights. I will be having scheduled months in advance, because I'm telling you, I'll just it'd be too much going on.
Listen, at least you're trying to make it happen, child, because it's crazy.
I be trying.
Because me and Kiera, how long we been saying I gotta come to New York? Since what?
Child, literally since the summer, probably, yes, maybe since spring, and it just has not been happening.
You just gotta pick a day.
Yeah,
just pick a day.
We be trying. It might be crazy,
and then stuff be coming up. You're like, oh, actually, been there. I get that.
I might not be able to. But we
and then with COVID,
I never realized like how polluted the air was when I did not wear my mask and my throat was feeling weird. So I was like, oh yeah, we keeping these masks on. That was it.
Yeah.
Very true.
No, but that's facts. Have y'all ever seen, I don't know if you saw it, Tomme, when you were still living here, but sometimes like I'll look at the weather app, and it'll say the air quality isn't all that great. And I'm just like, why are we out here living in this air quality? Like, y'all just got us out here in this air. But yeah, let's get into the question. So was there ever an instance where it was difficult to get through to someone during a training with the company? And if so, how did you navigate that? And if not, how would you attempt to figure that out?
Yeah, so luckily I haven't. And I'm not like one to shy away from difficult conversations, but I think the difference between a difficult conversation versus a conversation where people are just trying to start stuff, just like playing devil's advocate for no reason, and it's not really going to help advance your thoughts or advance the group thoughts. That's what I have a problem with. But I think the great thing about being in business for yourself is you pick and choose who you want to engage with. And for me, it's like you get about 2 chances, and then I'd be like, okay, this ain't gonna work out. I'm gonna opt out. But I wish you the best of luck. Because I think for either we want people who want to learn, or are just curious. We want those kind of people. But what we don't want is people who are just like, don't care at all, disrespectful, rude, and just say whatever comes to their throat. And the second part around like, if that was to happen, what would I do to try to figure it out? I'm thinking about in a workshop setting, the first thing I do is like, I ask the group, I throw it back to the group, like, did that make y'all feel some type of way? Did everyone have the same energy shift that I just did? And then like taking a pause. And then after that pause, coming back and really leaning into the conversation about like, where did that come from? And like investigating that, and not tackling it on myself, but tackling it with the community or the organization that I'm with, because they know this person 100% more than I do. And so I feel like as an outsider, it's not my role to necessarily be like, you're wrong, but like to be like, how can we have a collective conversation and come up with a collective strategy and some collective like norms together, so like this kind of behavior doesn't continue to happen. And my role is to facilitate that, but not to tell people necessarily what's right and what's wrong. So that's how I would attempt to work through a difficult thing that came up.
So you're more of a guide. I like that. So were you about to say something?
Yeah, I was, because I don't be knowing everything.
Yeah.
And what I do not like is if I go to somewhere and someone is facilitating and they try to act like their ideas and their opinions is the only thing that matters in the space, because that is 100% not true. I know when I go into an organization, I may be the only outwardly queer person, or known queer person, but I know there are queer people in that space who may not want to speak up, who may not say nothing. And so they may speak up, but in a way that's not going to out themselves. But the people at an organization or people that I work with, they have the resources, but it's about having a facilitated conversation on how we can use those resources and make them sustainable for the organization, is what I really come in to do.
So yes, we recently attended a talk with Moya Bailey. She coined the term misogynoir for those who do not know, and she's also an author. But she discussed forms of activist capitalism. So what are your thoughts on activist capitalism's role in today's economic structure?
All right, I'm going to ask y'all to explain this to me one more time. I done already forgot. I ain't shit. Okay, my bad.
So
okay,
it's
so
basically.
okay.
You want to? Okay, we can both share. It's basically when people are playing an activist role, but they're also playing into capitalism. So they're like promoting a rally to raise money for a cause, but it doesn't go to that cause. It goes to their pocket. And then there are people who are just posting stuff on social media, kind of like Sean King. He's an activist. I don't like Sean King.
That's a great example.
If you don't know about him, right? If you don't know about him by now, then you need to do your research, because he is the definition of that. So yeah, Kiera, you're next. I'm finished.
Okay.
Yeah, and it's also I feel like a lot of companies are being like super performative in their activism as well, and they're of course making money off of it. They're like, you know what, the Black dollar is kind of booming, so let's pretend that we care about these causes, and you know, they'll plaster Black Lives Matter all over their merchandise, or they'll make billboards about things, but they're still not changing their policies, and they're not like really doing the work to help to benefit these communities. They're making money off of our backs. So.
That makes sense. Thank y'all for that clarification. I think that this is not anything new to our society, because our society is 100% rooted in capitalism. And it makes me think of during Pride Month, what do you see every single organization do? Put up their rainbow.
Okay.
Have a rainbow accessory.
It's on the list of remodels.
Right. They be like, put up the flag as soon as June 30th is over. Lower the flag. Like, it's like, it's instantaneous. I mean, and so when I think about these organizations, I also think about us as consumers. What can we do when we know this is a thing? What shifts do we need to make as consumers to not continue to put money in the pockets of these corporations who exploit us? But that is so hard to do when a lot of these corporations own so many other even smaller corporations, and you find out, oh, this lens wipe thing that I bought is also owned by Pepsi, and you be like, dang, I can't win. And so it's like it's a continuous cycle. And so I think the question for us is, how do we create our own economic structure in which we're able to sustain ourselves as a community, and so that we're not always going to these oftentimes white exploitative organizations to get the goods and services that we need. And that's a challenge. And every time we try to build something up, you see white organizations coming in to be like, I'll buy it from you. And when that happens, I think a lot of times when you're not used to having large amounts of money, you're like, okay, I'm gonna take this opportunity, because you then start to think about yourself and your immediate people instead of thinking about the larger collective. And so I think a question that was posed to me a while ago is, what are you willing to give up for the collective? And a lot of us are not willing to give up much for the collective. And so until people are actually willing to give things up for the collective, we're going to continue to have this problem. Is what I believe.
Well, that was our last question. Thank you so much
of
for
course
coming on today. Like, this was amazing. Your answers were amazing. It was a beautiful conversation that I feel like a lot of people need to hear and tune into. Where can people follow you? And I mean, I know we got it scrolling at the bottom. But
I know. I love that.
Connect.
Love that. So for all things I3, you can follow us at Connect with I3 on Instagram. You can also follow us on LinkedIn, which is Connect with I3 as well. And then if you want to follow me personally, my page is private. So you can send me a request. But yeah, follow me on Instagram at Connect with I3.
Well, thank you again for coming on. This was great. This is a great episode back.
Yeah, I'm so excited.
Yeah, I'm really excited about what we have to come. Like, we have so many great people lined up, and I just feel like every episode is just getting better and better, and it's just it's been super fun. So thanks for tuning in, and we will see you guys next week.
Bye.
Bye.